Akira remembered the exact moment he died. The sharp pain in his chest as Rei's kitchen knife found its mark. The cold look in her beautiful violet eyes as she whispered, "If I can't have you, no one can." His wife of 3 years had finally snapped when she found him talking to his female co-worker at the company party. She'd always been possessive, checking his phone, following him to work, threatening anyone who got too close. But that night, jealousy had turned deadly. As his vision faded, he thought about all the chances he'd missed, all the people he'd hurt by choosing wrong. Now he was 17 again, sitting in his high school classroom on a spring morning in 2019. The same cherry blossoms outside the window, the same algebra teacher droning on about equations, the same choice that would determine everything. "Takeshi-kun?" A soft voice beside him made him turn. There she was, Yui Tanaka, with her gentle brown eyes and shy smile. His childhood friend who'd been by his side since elementary school. The girl who'd always supported his dreams, who'd stayed up late helping him study, who'd cheered the loudest at his baseball games. The one he'd completely ignored in his past life because he'd been chasing someone more exciting. "Are you okay?" she asked, concern filling her voice. "You look pale." He stared at her, overwhelmed by memories of what he'd lost. In his previous life, Yui had confessed to him on graduation day. He'd gently rejected her, saying he saw her as just a friend. She'd smiled through her tears and wished him happiness. He'd been so focused on the popular, mysterious Rei that he'd never noticed how Yui's smile had been fake that day. "I'm fine," he managed to say, but his voice cracked. The bell rang, and students began packing up. That's when she walked in. Rei Nakamura, the transfer student who would join their class today. Long black hair, perfect features, and an aura of danger that drew every boy's attention, including his, the first time around. But this time, Akira felt only fear. He watched her scan the room with calculating eyes. When her gaze landed on him, she smiled, that same beautiful, terrifying smile that had fooled him before. He knew what would happen next. She'd ask to sit with him at lunch. She'd start showing up wherever he went. She'd isolate him from his friends, especially Yui. "Class, we have a new student today," the teacher announced. "This is Rei Nakamura. Please make her feel welcome." "Thank you, Sensei," Rei said sweetly. Her eyes never left Akira's face. "I hope we can all be good friends." After class, she approached his desk. "Excuse me, you're Takeshi Akira, right? I heard you're good at math. Could you help me catch up?" In his past life, he'd been flattered. The most beautiful girl in school was asking for his help. This time, he saw through her act. "Sorry," he said quickly, standing up. "I promised to help Yui with something today." Rei's smile faltered for just a second. "Oh, maybe tomorrow then." "Actually," Yui spoke up from beside him, "we study together every day after school. You could join us if you want." Akira's heart jumped. Sweet, innocent Yui had no idea what she was inviting into their lives. "That's very kind," Rei said, her voice still honey-sweet. "But I prefer one-on-one tutoring. I concentrate better that way." Over the next few weeks, Akira worked hard to avoid being alone with Rei. Whenever she approached, he'd find excuses to be with Yui or other classmates. He started walking home with Yui every day, something he'd never done in his past life. "You've been different lately," Yui said one afternoon as they walked through the park. "More present somehow." "What do you mean?" he asked, though he knew exactly what she meant. "Before, you always seemed like you were looking for something else, someone else, but now you actually listen when I talk. You remember little things I mention." She blushed. "It's nice." Akira felt a stab of guilt. Had he really been that inattentive before? "I'm sorry if I seem distant. You've always been important to me, Yui. I just didn't know how to show it." She stopped walking and looked at him with wide eyes. "Takeshi-kun." But their moment was interrupted. "There you are, Akira." Rei's voice cut through the air like a blade. She appeared from behind a tree as if she'd been waiting. "I've been looking everywhere for you." "How did you know we'd be here?" Akira asked, his blood running cold. "Lucky guess," she said with that perfect smile, but her eyes were ice. "Yui-chan, Could you give us a moment alone? I need to discuss something private with Akira. Actually, Yui said, surprising both of them, I'd prefer to stay. Takeshi-kun and I were having an important conversation. For the first time, Rei's mask slipped completely. Her smile turned sharp and dangerous. I wasn't asking. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Akira stepped protectively in front of Yui. Rei, I think you should leave, he said firmly. Her laugh was like breaking glass. Oh, Akira, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? What you're giving up? Her eyes shifted to Yui with pure hatred. What you're choosing instead of me? That night, Akira couldn't sleep. He knew Rei wouldn't give up easily. In his past life, she'd escalated slowly, following him, showing up uninvited, driving away his friends one by one. But he'd been a willing victim then, flattered by her obsession. Now, she'd have to use different methods. The next morning, he found Yui crying by her locker. What's wrong? He asked, immediately worried. She showed him her phone. Dozens of messages from unknown numbers, horrible things about her appearance, her family, telling her to stay away from Akira or face consequences. It started last night, she whispered. Someone even called my house and threatened my little brother. Akira's hands shook with rage. This was new. In his past life, Rei had never directly threatened Yui because he'd never paid attention to her. But now, you need to tell the police, he said. I can't prove it was her, Yui said, and she's so popular. Who would believe me? That's when Akira made his decision. He pulled out his own phone and started recording. Rei, he called across the hallway. She turned, her face lighting up when she saw him. Akira, have you changed your mind about tutoring? Stay away from Yui, he said clearly, making sure his phone caught everything. Stop threatening her and her family. If anything happens to her, I'll know it was you. Rei's expression shifted through several emotions: surprise, anger, and finally, something cold and calculating. I have no idea what you're talking about, she said sweetly. But Akira, you should be careful about the company you keep. Sometimes people aren't who they seem to be. The threat was clear, even if the words were innocent. That evening, Akira walked Yui home as usual, but this time he took her hand. Takeshi-kun, she asked, blushing. I should have done this years ago, he said, stopping in front of her house. Yui, I think I'm falling in love with you. Her eyes filled with tears. Really? Really. You've always been there for me. You see the real me, not some fantasy version. You make me want to be better. He squeezed her hand. I know this is sudden, but would you be my girlfriend? She threw her arms around him, crying happy tears. Yes, I've loved you for so long. As he held her, Akira felt something he'd never experienced in his past life: complete contentment. He didn't need excitement or danger. He needed this. Love that was steady and real and safe. 3 months later, Rei transferred schools again. She left without a word, but Akira knew she'd finally realized she couldn't break them apart. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd chosen differently? Yui asked one day, as they sat under the cherry blossoms where they'd had their first kiss. Akira thought about his past life, the jealousy, the isolation, the fear, and finally the cold metal of the knife. Then he looked at Yui, radiant in the spring sunlight, and smiled. No, he said, pulling her closer. I chose exactly right. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories are the quiet ones, the ones where you choose kindness over excitement, friendship over passion, and steady devotion over dangerous obsession. Akira had learned that lesson the hard way, but he'd also learned that some mistakes can be undone, some choices can be remade, and some love stories get second chances. He was never going to waste his again.